the firstborn children would be more intelligent than the fourth or fifth or sixth. It's not clear that those studies hold up over time. And of course, what you see also is that families where there are multiple children, 4, 5, 6, 7, really big families, the social economic status of those families usually in the modern age is not that high.
Welcome to the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy, where you will learn the tips, tricks, and strategies he teaches his world-class clients to give you the skills to dominate any business.
What's going on, Mindset by Design crew, and welcome to episode 387. Hope you are amazing as always. Hope you really are. Let's just jump straight into it today, right? We know that the cleverest people in the world are generally the people that are earning the most money. Right? Think about this. That's why we go and get mentors. That's why we go and get coaches. That's why we put ourselves around brilliant people so we can what? Well, we can learn more stuff. Now, who knows more stuff? Clever people, right? It's interesting because I have a friend who's recently had a kid, and he is a straight scientist, genuinely a scientist, and he's already given amino acids to the baby to increase the brain function, the nervous system, and make them hyper intelligent. Now that might seem crazy, but it's only crazy if you don't know the data. It's only crazy if you don't know what you're doing, right? So for a normal average person to start doing that stuff, hey, that's crazy. I've used the word crazy a few times, I get it. But it is crazy. But for somebody who's already at a genius level, then they know what they're doing. So what is the benefits of them doing that? And what's the benefits of them increasing their intelligence? Well, it doesn't mean that that kid is then suddenly going to want to do business or life or sales or entrepreneurship. No, they could very well want to be an athlete, right? Or they could very well want to be build charities or whatever. But the truth is, either way, the ability to outthink your competition, be hyper intelligent and creative, to see perspectives and angles through lateral thinking, to be able to step into different versions of themselves for peak states, and to be able to understand how to read physiology and micro muscles and body language and energy. Well, those things come as EQ and IQ, and there's other forms of intelligence. But to be able to be ultimately optimized, well, do you think that gives a better chance of survival for that kid? Yeah, of course it does, right? Of course it does. Do you think Elon Musk, right, can be Elon Musk if he was dumb? No. Or if he was average intelligence? No. Or if he was even high intelligence? No, he couldn't, right? And I'm not saying he was given amino acids, and I'm definitely not saying he's an average person, because obviously he is not. But you know what I mean? What he's been able to do through his personality, his behavioral traits, and who he is. But the truth is, he's able to outthink all the rest of the world in his lane, and that is to do with intelligence, right? So what this episode is about today is, how do we increase our intelligence? Is it biological? Is it affected through environment? Is it affected through nature or nurture? Is it affected through trauma? Is it affected? How do we increase our intelligence, right? How do we increase our performance? How do we do this? And if we understand how to do this, then what happens is we can start making a conscious effort to adapting our children, our family members and ourselves and friends and peers and networks, and maybe in the Unfair Advantage Academy, I got a few things, right? So when we start to understand this, it takes our ability to create the results or the life that we want to a whole new level, a whole new possibility. And that's where we engage our expansive thinking. Right? That's where we step out of limiting behavior. That's where we step into a whole new paradigm of possibility, because if that's intelligence, right? To be able to think that at that such a high level that you are able to then use discipline, routine, systems, techniques to be able to build that behavioral system or pattern into your brain and your nervous system so you can start to automate. And that's how we start to become a very heightened different version of us. And does that make sense? So intelligence, whatever way, EQ, IQ, and all these different types of forms, whatever, right? If you want to be the most incredible artist in the world, then if you could enhance your capability to express that artistic side of you, wouldn't you want to do that? If you're in sales and you want to be able to have the ability to outthink that person in front of you because you are able to read them at a level that they don't even know they're even communicating at, right? Wouldn't that be an advantage? Wouldn't it be an advantage if you are an entrepreneur and having that discipline and the organization to be able to switch from logic to creative brain at will? Wouldn't that be an advantage? Wouldn't it be an advantage if you were so in control of your emotions that no matter what shit happened around you, you were bulletproof and you could stay focused on your path? Wouldn't that get you there quicker? Right. And so that's what I want to jump into today's episode. That's what I want to really give you. And it should be fun. It should be fun, right? So let's go and do that. But just before we do, make sure that you're heading over to unfairadvantage.online. 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 Why? Because I want to help you. I want to help you. I want to help you to see if the academy is right for you. But before you even get to see that, there is something I want to give you. It's cool. It's 3 things, 3 badass tools that are going to help you immediately. What is it? Well, it's called the Brain Hack Pack. What do we have? We have a video training in there, which is switching on Jedi powers. What else we got in there? We got a book there for you. What is it? It's about understanding brainwaves and peak states. What else we got for you? I've got a hypnosis/NLP audio for you to retrain your brain every single morning. That's the Brain Hack Pack. So go and get that for free right now. And while you're there, you might as well take a little look at the Unfair Advantage Academy. If you want to double your closing percentage or double your income in the next 180 days without burnout, without going on the emotional roller coaster, so you can earn millions of dollars and have a long-lasting career. That is there for you. I want to give you my 20 years of experience working with the best in the world and all the tools, tricks, and awesome skills that you need. So Unfair Advantage. What? You got it. Unfairadvantage.online. Or head over to the show notes, click on the links. We got lots of links. And I don't know if you've been following me on social media. If you haven't, come on. It's time to. It's time to, because I'm putting out a video a day. And I'm also putting out other content every single day. We have 2 to 3 pieces of content going out across all platforms every single day. And these videos are awesome. They're awesome. They're really cool. They're like little mini movies that are going to teach you something epic every single day. So make sure you're finding me on social media. Again, the links are in the show notes, but Andy Murphy Mindset everywhere. Sound good? Awesome. Unfairadvantage.online. Andy Murphy Mindset on social media. Come and hang out. Let's do something awesome together. And what else? Well, let's jump into today's show. Let's go on a journey and an adventure together. And I will see you at the end of the show.
Is there data on the intelligence, the IQ of parents as it relates to the children?
Yes, and there is some evidence, genetic evidence of kind of an interaction between the parents' IQ and the environment. That high IQ parents provide an enriched environment, which then can impact the child in addition to the genes. It's that environment. So there are all these interactions that, but it's not, think about the number of books in a household. This was a variable that's correlated with IQ. And
it is.
Yeah. Well, why? Especially if the kid never reads any of the books. It's because more intelligent people have more books in their house. And if you're more intelligent, and there's a genetic component to that, the child will get those genes or some of those genes as well as the environment. But it's not the number of books in the house that actually directly impacts the child. So the two scenarios on this are, you find that, and this was used to get rid of the SAT test. Oh, the SAT score is highly correlated with the social economic status of the parents. So all you're really measuring is how rich the parents are. Okay, well, why are the parents rich?
Yes.
Okay. And so the opposite kind of syllogism is that people who are very bright make more money. They can afford homes in better neighborhoods, so their kids get better schools. Now, the kids grow up bright. Where in that chain of events does that come from? Well, unless you have a genetically informative research design where you look at siblings that have the same biological parents and so on, you can't really disentangle all that. Most studies of social economic status and intelligence do not have a genetically informed design. So any conclusions they make about the causality of the social economic status being the cause of the IQ is a stretch. And where you do find genetically informative designs, you find most of the variance in your outcome measures are due to the genetic component, and sometimes the SES adds a little, but the weight of evidence is it doesn't add very much variance to predict what's going on beyond the genetic variance. So when you actually look at it in some, and there aren't that many studies that have genetically informed designs, but when you do see those, the genes seem to have an advantage.
Okay, crew, let me jump in there. Do you understand what he just said? Right? There's been no studies really that are accurate that show that the environment dictates the intelligence. It's rather that what dictates the intelligence is the genetics, okay? Which makes sense, right? If you got clever parents, it means you're going to have clever kids. But, and I'll say this with a big but, it's a case of just because someone's intelligent doesn't mean nothing about success. Think about it, right? You could have 4 people in a row and it depends on they all could be intelligent. You could have four kids, right? And they all could be hyper intelligent. But there's so much more going on behind the scenes with decisions and choices and perspectives. And there's like an innate or something about our soul, right? That drives us forwards. Because I know this with watching, observing with family. I've put it like this, right? One of my mates growing up, really, really clever. Really clever, man. Cleverer than me. Definitely. And I'm clever, but, there's clever people out there. And he's clever, man. He's as clever as me. But he's also really lazy. Like, really lazy. Now, you might look into the psychology of it, and I have. Again, coming from when he was a child, you look at his parents, and his parents were both really clever, for sure. His actual brother went to Harvard, and we come from nothing. We don't come from money, so we actually went to Harvard on a scholarship and became a doctor. Amazing. I love it. Brilliant. But then you've got the other guy who's the older guy who's just as clever, but didn't use it. And he was the older kid, so saw more chaos with the dad and the mom. So was infected, I was going to say that, but it's kind of infection when we talk about like even memetics, right? But he was kind of like affected, but more about the instability of the dad. So he made a choice or an unconscious decision that he was not worthy, which affected his self-esteem. So he overate, which was picked up by parents, right? He picked up that like behavior from his parents, but he overate, didn't believe in himself. So he had lack of confidence. So if you have lack of confidence and you don't believe in yourself, are you really going to take action? Right. So the intelligence didn't dictate what he could do. It was his decisions, unconscious decisions, affected by his parental environment, right? I know I'm using big words and going along a longer journey here, right? But hopefully you're with me, right? So put it into layman's terms. His parents fucked him up because he watched them and dad wasn't there. So he thought he was shit. So then what happened? Well, he didn't live to his full potential. Is that better? We can use different language if you want, right? So because of that, then he didn't live to his full potential. Whether you got his brother who saw a different perspective, was slightly younger, so probably wasn't affected as much, or made a different decision about life. And the different decision was, let's see what my full potential is. I want that. So his discipline, his drive, his ethics, his ability to expand and push was to a whole new level. And that's why he was able to step into a whole new environment and become a doctor, right? Where my friend, who's like one of my oldest friends, probably my oldest friend, to be honest, in the UK, he is doing a degree, but it's taken 5 years. He works in a factory and he enjoys his life. I'm not saying that, but is he living to his full potential? No, but can he still? Yeah, he's only in his mid-40s. So he still can have a massive shift in his life. But do you see the difference, right? So just because, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, just because someone's intelligent, right, or even the environment's not right, there's like something else inside of us, man, that pulls us, that we tune into, that we make different decisions from. And where I'm from, right, I made a decision years ago, but it was kind of like you just pulled this way and things happen. I made a different decision that I don't like society. I do not like rules. No one can tell me what to do, and I'm going to go and see what happens in the world. And that's why I left when I was 24 years old, right? And just went to the other side of the world in Australia. And it's just because, and I'm sure you know my story from there, right? But just because of that, it's a case of, my life has become very different to my family members. Does it mean that we're more intelligent or less intelligent? No, it means I made different decisions, and I am relentless until things are done. Where some people would give up, right? And that's the difference.
Sorry for the strange questions, but is there a connection between fertility or the number of kids that you have and G factor? So, the kind of conventional wisdom is people of maybe, is it higher economic status or something like that, are having fewer children. I just loosely hear these kinds of things. Is there data that you're aware of in one direction or another on this?
Well, strange questions always get strange answers.
Yes. All right. So do you have a strange answer for that strange question?
The answer is there were some studies that indicated the more children in a family, the firstborn children would be more intelligent than the fourth or fifth or sixth. It's not clear that those studies hold up over time. And of course, what you see also is that families where there are multiple children, 4, 5, 6, 7, really big families, the social economic status of those families usually in the modern age is not that high. Mm-hmm. It used to be the aristocracy used to have a lot of kids. I'm not sure exactly, but there have been reports of correlations between IQ and fertility, but I'm not sure that the data are very strong that the firstborn child is always the smartest. It seems like there's some data to that, but I'm not current on that.
How would that be explained? That would be a nurture.
Well, it could be nurture. It could be in uterine environment. I mean,
boy, biology is complicated.
And this is why like many areas of science, you said earlier that there are a lot of gray areas and no definitive answers. This is not uncommon in science, that the closer you look at a problem, the more questions you get, not the fewer questions, because the universe is complicated. And the idea that we have people on this planet who can study the first nanoseconds of the Big Bang, that's pretty amazing. And I've always said that if they can study the first nanoseconds of the Big Bang, we can certainly figure out something about intelligence that allows that.
Let's talk about that for a second, right? Again, we talk about different forms of intelligence and ability. And I love what you just said, to be honest. A scientist, right? If we looked at, they can read the first nanoseconds of the Big Bang, right? That's a certain type of intelligence. But what we're here on about in Mindset by Design is about business, entrepreneurism, sales, right? Peak performance. And so you take that scientist, and not everybody, right? There's always exceptions to every rule. But if I took them and then threw them into high ticket sales or selling, well, it depends on your concept of high ticket sales. I mean, the internet marketing world's hysterical, because they go around teaching high ticket sales as something like between $2,000 and 20 grand, right? But do you know that people are selling cities and resort and Gulfstream private jets that are worth $500 million, $1 billion? That's high ticket sales, right? So when people say, oh, it's 20 grand, man, I used to sell $500,000 properties, and we used to do it off the plan in 90 minutes. Do you know what I mean? It's like what's your perception of high ticket sales? But anyway, back to my point. You take that same intelligence of a scientist that is in reading micro nanoseconds, right, of the Big Bang, and then you put them into a sales environment. Well, they're both clever. Do you think they're going to perform? Yes, I understand the context dependent. I understand that it depends on what the hell they're selling. If they're selling a machine that reads nanoseconds, then they probably might be really good at it, right? But for most things, they're not going to be very good at it. Does that make sense? So if you're out there in sales and you're like looking and you're like getting down on yourself, or you're worried about like, maybe I'm not intelligent, or why am I holding yourself back? Then there's many other external or internal circumstances that might be like, well, why aren't I performing? Well, you're not performing potentially because you don't understand how to utilize your brain and your brainwave frequencies to step into flow. It also might be you not being able to be so in control of your own emotions that you are allowing the stress or the anxiety to take over. You might need to upskill. You might not know what hypnotic or NLP language patterns are, right? You might not know how to read micromuscles or behavior or tonality, right? You might not be able to read those things. And if you can't read those things, then you're missing out on a whole level of unconscious communication, or what I call subliminal communication, a deeper level. But most communication is actually done there. So most sales is done there. It's not about the words that you say. It's the energy behind them, the frequency behind them, the way you say them, how they're said. And that's what creates a sale. A sale is about being able to have such a belief in the product or service that you're selling, a genuine one, that if it's not sold to that other person, or that other person does not buy, then it's heartbreaking to you. It's heartbreaking because you know it's going to change that person's life. So them not doing it, it breaks your heart. So you're going to do whatever it takes to make sure that they buy, because you know it's so fucking good that it's going to change that person's life and their family's life and their income. Does that make sense? So is that intelligence? Well, it's kind of an intelligence, but you see the difference in, do you get it? Right. So that's the contrast in different type of intelligence. And that's why you might be listening to this, listening to this. It's on YouTube too, but it's still listening. And you might go, well, that's why I'm not getting success, Andy. That's why I'm not being able to get my closing percentage up. That's why I'm not being able to launch that business. Or that's why I've dipped in performance. Right, that's exactly the reasons. So when people talk about mindset, it kind of drives me nuts, man. Because it's become such a generic term. Like, this podcast has been going for 8 years now. Way before this industry was even an industry. I've been doing this game for 20 years all over the world. And I've seen it all, man. I've just seen it all. I've taken people from 1 million to 65 million in the same year. I've done all those things. And I'm not teaching them business skills. What I'm teaching them is mental tactics and strategies so they can perform like a world champion or their best of their ability. That's the difference that makes the difference in results.
I'm not sure what's more complicated, the human mind or the physics of the universe. It's unclear to me. I think we overemphasize.
That's a very humbling statement.
Maybe it's a very human-centric, egotistical statement that our mind is somehow super complicated, but biology is a tricky one to unravel. Consciousness. What is that?
I've always believed that consciousness and intelligence are the two real fundamental problems of the human brain, and therefore I think they must be related.
Now that's the end of the clip, but that's probably the most powerful bit of the clip. And it's interesting that that's basically what I was talking about, right? That innate or that inside automatic part of us that that pulls us forwards, right? Now, they could be talking about consciousness or conscious, right? Consciousness can be awareness, or they could be talking about consciousness, or that is the universe, like what Tesla talks about, right? We are inside a frequency. So that's one aspect of what I love to teach and understand. But the other, what they could be talking about, is from the psychological term, which is consciousness, which is awareness of yourself, right? So I am aware that I am alive inside of this body. I am in a meat suit, but I am not the meat suit. That's being conscious, right? So consciousness is then I am inside this meat suit as me, inside of an energy field that is all around me that then I can connect to. So we can go way, way deeper, man, and I'm not going to go into that today, but I really hoped that this helped you today. And I'd go over it again. I'd share this with someone. I'd help somebody. Because this might be the difference between you making $1 million this year and 100,000 this year. It could be. It really could be. So that's the end of episode 387. We're going to keep it short and sweet today. Keep it short and sweet. But look, if you want help with this, if you want to help to really tune up and double your closing percentage or income in the next 180 days, if you want the superpowers that I've taught to the best in the world, then, and you want those free gifts, the Brain Hack Pack, right? Just go right now. It's easy. Go to unfairadvantage.online, unfairadvantage.online, and go and check it out. I'm sure you'll like it, and have a chat with us, and it might be for you. But either way, you get your free gifts, and that is awesome. That is awesome. So until the next time, much love. Go and find me on social media. Go and click on the links, and until the next time, you have an amazing week. And oh yeah, one more thing. Why don't you smile for me?
Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of the Mindset by Design podcast with your host and NLP expert, Andy Murphy. We'll catch you next time.